Hello and welcome to the Cipher Brief Studio. I'm Suzanne Kelly here with Brad Christian. It is really a pleasure to have you with us today. We're talking with the director of the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity, also known, thank goodness, as IARPA, Dr. Catherine Marsh. For those of you who are unfamiliar with IARPA, the organization really focuses on investing in high risk and potentially high payoff programs that help address the needs of the intelligence community, both today and into the future. So you can imagine that there's a fair bit of understanding of the challenges that the IC faces and both the partners and the technologies that can really help support those intelligence community missions. As you can imagine, the organization is very focused on things like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, machine learning, and synthetic biology. And I will welcome our guest in just one moment. But before I do, I'd like to get some logistics out of the way quickly. First of all, for those of you who are also interested in the cyber threat, I am very pleased to let you know that we are launching the Cyber Initiatives Group first Cyber Summit of the year. It is sort of like a star-studded occasion for those of you who are cyber nerds like I am. It's going to be sort of an event that runs about 6 hours on February 9th from 10 in the morning Eastern time till 4 in the afternoon. We've got a number of sessions on all the issues that everyone's talking about that are impacting both the public and the private sectors. So you can get more details as well as a link to register for that in the Cipher Briefs daily newsletter. Also coming up in October, and I know a lot of people are going to be pinging me on this because we're going to sell out. We are really proud to announce the 2022 Threat Conference. It's happening October 9th through the 11th. More information again on our website. You can also check out tcbconference.com. We've got agendas from last year. You'll get a sense of the speakers and the topics and find out if that's a right fit for you. It is limited in terms of seating and capacity, so if you are interested, make sure you get it on your radar early. All right, we have a number of Cipher Brief experts and former directors of intelligence agencies on the call today. Very grateful for your time and very excited to welcome you into this conversation if you have questions today. We also have a number of my media colleagues on the call today. Welcome to all of you and a happy 2022. For those of you I haven't touched base with lately, this is an on-the-record conversation today. For anyone who would like to ask a question, you're going to see the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a chat box function in there. Please feel free to type out your questions in there if you're on a desktop or a laptop. If you're on your phone, you can always email your questions to Brad at bchristian@thecipherbrief.com. And you don't have to wait to ask those questions, so please feel free to submit them at any time. I will let Dr. Marsh know who's asking the questions before I present your question. So thanks so much for doing that. All right, with that, it is truly a pleasure to welcome Dr. Catherine Marsh to this Cipher Brief today. Dr. Marsh became director of the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity in November of 2019. And in that role, she is responsible for investing in that high risk, high payoff research that we talked about. And she's really looking for things in that leadership role that have the potential to provide the US with an intelligence advantage over adversaries. Prior to this assignment, Dr. Marsh was a chief scientist for the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology from 2016 to 2019. She also served as dean of DS&T's George Methley School. From 2013 to 2015, she served as IARPA's deputy director, so it's not her first rodeo when it comes to IARPA. She joined the CIA in 2001, and just a couple of interesting little tidbits. She also worked in industry, and while there, she led the team that put the lithium-ion technology on a number of platforms, including NASA's Mars exploration rover Spirit and Opportunity. So I'm kind of geeking out a little bit over that. If you've been paying attention to what NASA's doing these days, you really understand the power that technology brings. Dr. Marsh, welcome so much, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to come and talk with you this afternoon.
Now, it's an honor to have you as well. You know, I think you would agree that sort of the rapid development of technology provides both challenges and opportunities for the intelligence community. I'm really interested in starting off with you today by just kind of having you set the stage for us on how you're looking at priorities for IARPA and the things that you're most focused on as we launch into this new year.
Okay, so it's really a great opportunity to talk about IARPA. We were set up and established right after 9/11 to provide the same thing for the intelligence community that the Department of Defense had with DARPA, right? An organization that could explore disruptive next generation capabilities to give policymakers a decisive advantage over our adversaries. And so we focus on developing innovative solutions that will give them that strategic advantage over our adversaries. And it's really fun because we get to do this by investing in really hard problems and challenges that others aren't necessarily going to invest in. We're really an R&D organization, so we get to take a lot of risk. Our research portfolio is so incredibly diverse. We run the gamut from, as you said, quantum computing and neuroscience to cognitive psychology, sociology, power sources, advanced antennas, and even chemical and biological sensing. So we're really at the forefront using artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop incredible capabilities in speech and facial recognition, as well as in machine translation and information discovery. Because the technologies we're working on to develop for the community to advance national security are so informative, I'd really like to highlight some of the key things that we've done. You know, our investments in quantum computing helped lay the foundation for Google's announcement in the fall of 2019 of quantum supremacy. In fact, one of our teams from the University of California, Santa Barbara, who successfully exited our program, moved over to Google, where they continued that really foundational research in this field. And we can actually attribute a Nobel Prize winner, a Bell Prize winner, and a London Prize winner to performers on our research programs. We have worked in human language translation for quite some time with our Babel program, and using that, right, we have to worry about really low resource languages, right? We're not worried about Spanish and French, which many people speak. We're worried about, Pashto and things like that. So we were able to develop a speech recognition system that takes the ability to do that translation from a few months to a few days. And so that really is a game changer for what we can do in terms of understanding the intelligence. And we worked on advanced sensors and determining standoff chemical detection with our Silmarils program, where we were actually able to test that at the Indy 500 a couple of years ago, back when you could do that, on simulants, not on real dangerous chemicals. And that's really important, right? You want to be able to provide that standoff capability and know so that you don't put people in harm's way. We also do some very interesting partnering when on one of our programs a few years back, we partnered with Microsoft Research on advanced mosquito traps so that we could capture species to evaluate their genetic makeup and understand what was going on. And so in that partnering, Microsoft Research actually deployed those traps to monitor for outbreaks of the Zika virus. And we focused our investment on the complex analysis techniques you need to provide early warning of health outbreaks. So, you know, as impressive as these capabilities are, these achievements that we've done, we recognize that technology innovation takes place everywhere across the globe. And we couple that fact with the degrees of complexity and the speed of change to make the IC problem set is so big, right? How do we make sure that we're doing a comprehensive look at that? And when you do that, you conclude that we have to partner, right? We have to team effectively. And essentially what we do in our organization is we do everything to the maximum extent possible unclassified. And so that allows IARPA to leverage the best and brightest minds in the world, period. And we're very, very clear with what we do. We start every program by setting the lanes in the road through our very best practices called the Research and Technology Protection Program. So the first step that you have is with the director to get your new start pitch approved, and your second stop is with our security team to make sure that you know when a program moves from unclassified to classified, et cetera. So that gives us the freedom to tap into the best everywhere in the world. And so once we do that, we then provide that opportunity to everybody. We go out with a broad agency announcement, right? So full and open competition. And we use that as a means to solicit novel performers from anywhere in the world. In fact, in response to our 85 BAAs that we've had over time, we've had well over 2,200 unique proposals come in, and we have awarded nearly 650 different performers, including primes and subs. And we have partnered right now on contract. We have well over 160 performers. And we expect more in the coming year. We've got a lot of new programs on the horizon. And, the other thing about IARPA is, we don't fund the typical IC performers, let me put it that way, right? We'll tap, we want the best and the brightest ideas. And so because of that, we fund large businesses, small businesses, academia, and even independent contractors, right? And we know that 25% of right now, 25% of our performers are large business, 25 are small business, and 50% are academicians. But over time, when I looked at it, it's about 38% small businesses, 38% academia, and the rest large business. So the other thing that allows us to do that is we don't need you to be cleared, right? I mean, while our program managers may be cleared and they have the insight to the other side of what is going on, when we do this, we get those really novel ideas, which you don't have access to other ways. So it allows us to take our deep understanding of the science, technology, engineering, and math that we know and the problems that are facing the IC, and put them together in a rather unique way to identify the challenges that are out there, and then devise a problem, not a problem, we have lots of problems, devise a challenge to how do we address that problem or that gap in capability for the intelligence community. And given the spectrum of what we've got going on, we have to take really high risk approaches. We look at a diversity of approaches for things that we're looking at, but we have to manage that risk, right? Doing high risk, high payoff research means that you have to handle risk, right? And always when you handle things that are risky, you're going to fail. If I said 100% of our work was successful, that we are not taking enough risk. That's what we were stood up to do, is to try those things that won't get invested in any other way. And so, but we learned from that, right? We learned from the failures that happen. It makes us smarter, and it makes what we deliver better. And we document, okay, what works and what doesn't and why it doesn't. But to make sure that we maximize the value of anything that we're going to do for the community, we make metrics a critical part of our culture, right? In everything we do, I make data-driven decisions, right? It's not about how much I like you or anything like that. It is strictly based on the data and how we evaluate it. And we do that independently. Trust but verify, right? If you are a performer, you are going to turn over what it is that you have been working on, and we are going to use independent government test and evaluators to give us ground truth, so that when I stand up in front of my IC partner and I say, yes, this can do X, I have independently tested it, and you can trust that what I say, you've got my endurance from. And so we don't know what's going to work, and so what I'm trying to do is to keep as many different approaches ongoing during a particular program, so that we can provide more than one solution, right? If I can give a suite of solutions, then I can possibly, not me, because I don't deploy anything, but our partners can deploy different technologies in different places around the world, so that it provides a safer, more robust environment for our intelligence officers to work in. So, in doing this exploration, our research programs are structured such that we have phases, and in the particular phase, there's metrics that you're going to work on, and they're going to get increasingly harder as the program moves on. And so if you're not making progress against those metrics, you will likely be terminated, right? The other thing that's really important is that we have a finite amount of time that we allow for a program. It's typically 3 to 5 years, and we do not let, so that means that we don't fall in love with programs, right? And that's important. We're not doing things forever and ever. I know it takes 15 years to do a satellite, but we don't do satellites. But the reality is, by not doing that and having that constant change, we're able to be agile to go after that next generation, that next gap in capabilities. And we really do have to be able to do that because the environment is changing much, much more rapidly today than it ever has before. And so when you think about intelligence as providing the advanced warning of possible events to come, reliable intelligence really requires analytical techniques that are, thank you, analytical techniques that can handle massive amounts of data and deliver relevant, accurate information so that decision makers have enough warning that they can protect the nation. So at IARPA, we structured ourselves to focus on 2 technical areas, analysis and collections, 2 broad technical areas, so that we can maximize the insights from the massive, disparate, unreliable, and dynamic data that are or could be available to our analysts. And so that they can turn, right, data has to get turned into information. That's what we need it to be able to do. And so how do we do that when the volume, velocity, variety, and veracity of the data is changing so much, right? You really have to know what's good, what's not. And so that's where AI and machine learning comes in. How do we train it? How do we teach it? And how do we make that be reliable to give those new tools to our analysts so they can do that near real time on their desk? And so in the collection side, they too have to dramatically improve the value of what they're doing from all the data that they have out there. And so they focus on really diverse ways of collecting, sensing all kinds of threats that might be out there, and the new means for doing that in denied areas, inaccessible and denied areas. And so when we do that, we get to talk about now a couple of the really great opportunities that are out there. And we have a brand new, very exciting program, Agile, that's on the street right now. This is an open BAA. It closes next Monday, the 24th, okay, which is on advanced computing, right? So the Agile program, which stands for Advanced Graphical Intelligence Logical Computing Environment. Thank God for the acronyms, people. The Agile program really aims to revolutionize high performance, high energy computing environments to help us keep pace and handle that huge amount of data that I was just talking about and the way that we ingest it. So I encourage people to think about that. And if they want, they can find out more on our website or on sam.beta.gov, which is where that is. But when you've got that large amount of and volumes of data that are underlying the Agile program, you have to think about other alternative ways to deal with it rather than just large server farms. And so one of our other programs, MIST, is exploring new ways to dramatically reduce the footprint, power, and costs required for future storage systems by using none other than DNA, right? How do you use sequence control polymers like DNA to scale to the exabytes of data problems? And so we're not there yet, but the results are really promising. In addition to doing the compute things, we also have another open BAA on the street right now called Equal P, which is an advanced antenna program. Right? Antennas and batteries size everything that the intelligence community does. And so we really worry about how do you make that smaller, more versatile, more capable, and deliver next generation performance. And so that program's open now too, and that one closes on the 4th of February. But it's more than just the computing. If the pandemic has shown us anything, it's like, how do we reliably, securely work with information and data anywhere? How can I do this on my living room sofa, right? And so our brand new Scissors program, which kicked off last October, is designed to do just that. Think about being able to work securely from your living room couch or the kitchen or in the desert, knowing that what you're really doing is truly secure and protected from data exfil. That's a game changer, not only for us in the IC, but for everyone who values the security of proprietary information. So, but it will come as no surprise to anyone that the intelligence community cannot possibly hire enough human analysts to convert the huge volumes of data, again, into actionable intelligence. And so on our Better program, we're actually advancing the capabilities to do that and to bring on the language it was written and turn it into intelligence products automatically. So, you know, the volume problem isn't just speech and text, it's everything. And so we're worried about that. And we focus a lot of our problems on different ways of approaching that. And our SMART program will go beyond that with object recognition and how can you figure out what's going on with different things. Imagine being able to study crops and how they're growing around the world and what that might be able to do to tell you about intelligence. So all of these are just emerging programs or a sample of all the innovative things that we're doing. It's not easy. We face a lot of challenges, but it is well worth the investment and keeps us on our toes as we really provide a robust intelligence solution for the community. Our one goal, really, as scientists and engineers, is to provide an unfair technical advantage over our adversaries, right? I don't want to be fair. I want to be unfair. I want to give a really hard capabilities and to, in our relentless pursuit of truth, right? We can't do it alone. We need to partner and forge strong partnerships. We have many who come back and are repeat participants in programs on us, with us, and that's great. We really welcome all these diverse ideas. And so the truth is we're really busy, and we will have a lot of opportunities for new programs that will be starting over the course of this year and into the future, and we welcome people partnering with us with their great solutions. So, thank you.
Wonderful. It's such a fantastic kind of overview of your priorities and your objectives and what you're trying to do, particularly right now in this age where there is so much focus on having that technological advantage that you talked about in your words, you know, that quest to be truly unfair and have that unfair advantage. And as someone who's really covered the intelligence community for, gosh, more than a decade now, you really hit on some of the pain points that are the harder, you know, the harder challenges to answer. So I love that you have the approach where you're partnering with industry. We're getting a bunch of really great questions in, so I want to get to a couple of them, and I'm sure that you may have heard this one before, but General David Petraeus asks if you could compare and contrast the effectiveness of the IARPA approach and that of In-Q-Tel, which of course, In-Q-Tel was associated with your old organization when you were at the CIA, and they were really sort of outside of government, but they worked closely with the CIA on development. How is IARPA different? How would you compare and contrast the two?
I can absolutely address that, and they're two different parts of the spectrum. Truth in advertising, the quick and In-Q-Tel was part of my portfolio of responsibility at the CIA. So at In-Q-Tel, what they're different things, right? We're in early phase research and development. In-Q-Tel is a venture capital investment arm, if you will, for the IC. And so they're going after things that are much more leveraging what's now and able to produce now and a little bit into the future, whereas we're looking at totally different kinds of capabilities to address a gap. They are different types of approaches. Both are important and both are effective, but they're going after different aspects of what you can deploy. A venture capital is, in the In-Q-Tel model is round B, round A, early phase investment, and they still have to take it to that next capability. They're also going after much more used, much wider used things. In the R&D community, particularly at IARPA, we may deploy something that gets used only once and never used again. So we are going after often a problem solution, and it may be that resulting from our research, a company goes on and gets a In-Q-Tel investment because they want to commercialize what they do. That is entirely possible. I don't know whether that's happened. It's a good question, actually. So I think they're both important.
I think great question and great answer. I've always, in my mind, and I don't mean to be insulting in any way, it's just easier for me in a non-scientific mode to grasp things this way. I've always thought of IARPA and kind of your role as that of like Q from James Bond. Like there's a problem and there's a solution that we're working on developing, and sometimes we have to use our own research, sometimes we partner with someone else to come up with really creative ways to address that. I love that component. Another question here. From Jim Clapper. I told you we just have a fantastic community of folks here. He says, can you point to some recent examples of IC components or DoD incorporating the results of IARPA work? And he's thinking specifically of like AI applications.
That I can say in the open, right? You know?
Yeah.
So remember, we don't deploy. So what I can say is that our HFGO program did some great deployment and collections capabilities that were deployed operationally. That's a program that General Clapper would be familiar with. We have programs going on right now. Our SMART program is working on some capabilities that have AI and machine learning capabilities that are being deployed. The ones that you can see and we can talk about, material for our language, better for our language, right? And so what those are doing are they have AI machine learning capabilities that are doing translation and capabilities. Imagine, all right, one of our programs, the ability to ask a query of a foreign language paper or a foreign language document that you're reading in English, okay, your native language, and getting the response back in English, your native language, even though you don't speak that. And so we're developing tools under the material program that do just exactly that. So those are some very current program capabilities that have deployed to do that.
That's a great example. Okay, a couple of questions here. Silver Magalis, hello, it's nice to have you back with us. He says, does IARPA work with Five Eyes partners as well on advanced intelligence research projects to counter US adversaries, you know, specifically?
So,
or is it just more to academics and small business?
We have, and we don't, like I said, we don't limit ourselves to just domestic performers. In fact, some of our quantum performers are overseas in the Netherlands. We have worked with the UK on several programs as performers, and we have worked with both the Australians and the UK governments to transition some of the capabilities from our programs. In fact, our IC prediction market, which we call here, and it came from the ACE program, actually transitioned to the UK government, and they are using it. I don't know exactly how, but we know that they are using it, and they're using it effectively, and they're very big fans of it. So not only can our capabilities, you know, move to our partners here, they can also move overseas.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you. Also kind of staying on that partnership side from Gary Jackal, who says, how does a company introduce a new technology or like a widget or a device that you have not asked about, but have expressed that this is a prime area of concern or a challenge that's facing DoD or the IC? It sounds to me so far like it doesn't really work that way. Like you come up with the ideas, not necessarily the partners.
We come up with the challenge, right? So this is really technical but boring, but we use FAR Part 35, not FAR Part 15, so we don't have a requirement. Okay, what we do is we come out with, we're looking for a new capability that can do X, and then you would propose a widget to that. Having said that, if there is a company out there, and we are about to later this year put out, it probably won't be till the fall, what we call open area-wide BAAs, where if you have an idea that you want to pitch, you could submit a white paper for, a couple-page white paper, and we would decide whether or not that's something we might want to invest in a short seedling that may or may not turn into a program. But IARPA has a open door policy, and if somebody really wants to get on my calendar or get on my deputy's calendar or one of the office directors, they can just reach out to us, and we will give them an hour of our time to listen to what it is that they have to say. Having said that, if somebody's got a really great idea, we're always recruiting program managers, and I am a shameless recruiter, and I need more program managers all the time to come and join our team. So if you've got a great idea that you think will solve an intelligence problem, and you're interested in coming and doing that from us with a big budget, willing to move the needle in that capabilities, please, reach out to us via our webpage. Easy to find us.
I think you're going to generate a lot of excitement here, because a lot of the Cipher Brief audience as well are those sort of innovative thinkers, and a lot of them come from large companies, but a lot of them come from, more of that like seed company stage, which, when you were comparing and contrasting with In-Q-Tel, we talked a little bit about, it sounds like the seed ideas really happen at IARPA, which is exciting. So let's talk a little bit more about kind of how you see the technologies developing, and then how they're kind of put into play. You don't deploy anything, like you mentioned that a couple of times, but it's your IC clients who actually make the decision. So you pitch these ideas to the members of the IC, and then they go deploy. Is that how it works?
Not quite, but close. So what I make sure I do, I'm blessed to have a great network across the community, and as do my office directors and others. And what we do at the beginning is we're constantly talking with them. We understand what their problems and what they can't do, and so working with them, all right, in the framing of a program up front, because we've identified a gap, that we will partner on that framing, and they will help us shape the program, shape the idea, shape what metrics they want to see for them to partner with us, and then they may even participate in the solicitation, right, as a technical reviewer of the proposal ideas that come in. So we walk in lockstep with our IC partners all the way through the process. They don't make any decisions. They help guide and they help shape where the programs will be. And what we do is we keep them, I want to say, attached at the hip to us all the way through the program, because we want them to be excited about the progress on this. Or if we're going down the wrong road somewhere, we'd like them to help us do a course correction. And so we invite them to our program reviews, which happen every 6 months on every program. And we invite them to visit with the performers and put their hands on the technology, and to be part of that assessment on the journey, so that at the end, when we're finished with our investment, which could be up to $100 million or more on a particular area over a 3 to 5 year. Yes, we're moving the needle on technologies, right? I'm not saying every program is funded like that, and I can't tell you my top line budget or anything like that, but we are making significant investments. I know what's classified and what's not. But when you do that, you want to make sure that at the end, somebody's picking it up and they're going to continue that. They're going to finish that development. They're going to take it and do the shift that might be needed to take it into the classified realm for how it's going to be used or where it's going to be deployed. And going back to that research and technology protection, since we've done all this in the unclass world, how do they perhaps do the piece that's in the classified world? They also, when there's deep pockets of technical expertise, they also can be part of our T&E teams, test and evaluation teams, and do that part of that independent testing on our behalf.
And I would think too that, once you get it to a stage where it's sort of meeting your requirements, that then it opens up, the option of, going further and finding dual use technologies that, might be great both in and out of government. Let me ask you a question here from General Votel. Joe Votel, it's nice to see you. I wish I could see you as the new year kicks off. He's interested in, Catherine, your view on what has been the most successful practice, or what have been the most successful practices for promoting trust and transparency between IARPA and the public sector. And I'm really glad General Vitale asked this question, because that is still something that can be a bit sensitive when it comes to private companies working with government. There's, I don't know whether it's the stigma or the idea that, government's not going to do what the private sector wants you to do with it, but how hard is it to build that trust?
I hope everybody trusts us. We don't steal anybody's ideas, right? We want you to publish your ideas, right? We are right behind you. We don't. Yes, we'd like an acknowledgement that we have supported the funding along the way, but we encourage people to publish. We encourage people to patent. We only are asking for government purpose rights to be able to use the capabilities that we've invested in to help us. So we're not taking away your intellectual property. We want you to take that IP and go further with it. We just want the ability for the government to use it, because we've made an investment to help get you there, right? And so I think that helps build trust, right? We're not taking it away from you, and we're not telling you anything that we don't test your stuff and then not tell you the results of the testing, right? You're the first to know, right? You're right there from the get-go. We're not, so when things are working great, we're telling you they're working great, and when things aren't working great, we're telling you they're not working great. But we don't go out and publish that, X company's results are bad, right? We don't do that kind of thing. We are, that is private information, and it's close held. So I think that those things help build trust. I think that the fact that we are upfront with, I go back to the research and technology protection, but we're upfront where those lines in the road are, and we have worked with our intelligence community partners to establish those on each and every program. This role is one of the few in the intelligence community with original classification authority, and so we are very respectful of everything to ensure that we can keep the ability to be out in the public and to do everything in the full and open competition. To date, 96% of all the programs that we have done have been unclassified. So
oh, wow.
we're not hiding the most part. Now that doesn't mean that there might not be a classified aspect even of a full classified program that we might do, but that's still, we translate the results to be able to tell people honestly what their technology can do.
That's really interesting perspective. And I'm not sure if General Vitale meant it this way, but are you also sensing at all like a hesitation to partner with government simply because some, private companies don't trust government in general, and not in terms of like, what the details might be in your arrangements with them, but are you sensing hesitancy there, or maybe are those relationships softening a little bit?
We haven't, noticed any hesitancy to work with us. I will say that yesterday we just held a proposers day for a new program in human language translation hiatus, and we had 135 participants across the sector. And there may have been more than one from a particular company. So we're really trying our best with my public affairs people and my team, my comms team, to get interest about our programs out there so that we talk about them, we talk about the science and what they're doing. And they do this thing called tweeting. I don't tweet, so, no, I'm kidding, they do, but they're constantly trying to keep people aware of the results and the things that are of interest coming from IARPA. So I haven't noticed hesitancy to engage with us at all. But you don't know what you don't know if somebody's not choosing to engage. But with the diversity of companies that we're seeing, I think we're doing a reasonable job. I really do.
That's an excellent explanation. You have this thing out there called Smarty Pants, and there's not a whole lot out there on what IARPA is doing, which is crazy. There should be, because you're doing really fascinating work. But talk to me a little bit about textiles, because I'm trying to imagine the science fiction future, what's down the road. And actually, it gets to one of Brad's questions here with us too. He says, roughly, how much time does IARPA spend on solutions that are needed today versus imagining those over the horizon challenges? And Smarty Pants might be a good way to answer that question. I don't know.
So good. Smarty, I would just want to tell everybody, Smarty Pants is not yet a program. It is an idea that's in development, and the program manager, Dr. Dawson Cagle, has a request for information out on the street right now, which is why there's not much out there on it. Is we're trying to figure out how to what I like to say is solve the naked person problem, right? And so how do you keep people safe, and how do you do that? And putting them in a unique environment, right? And so smart textiles is one way to be able to do that. However, smart textiles can't necessarily be washed, right? And so how do you take something that, because if it's smart, right, and it maybe can do something, how do you put the different kinds of sensors in there and make it washable and comfortable and wearable so that you can take it into a place where you may or may not have it. So we're exploring right now that possibility of whether smart textiles make sense. The DoD has been worried about this kind of thing for quite some time, and they have a large program out at the Air Force on how to make their uniforms better to protect the warfighter. And so we're worried about it in a very different manner. And I'm not putting a flak jacket on somebody, right, to be an intelligence officer. And so this is an opportunity with the request for information for you to actually go out there, shape the program direction, or to tell us we're full of hot air. There's nothing that's going to do this now. And that too is really important to know, that we can't make a change. And so we wouldn't make the investment in the capabilities.
I love the innovative ideas, though. I really do. I mean, there's so much energy around that. And I would imagine that the talent that you do attract is really high quality talent. Okay, a couple more questions from some of our attendees today. Deborah Decker says, is IARPA doing any work to make assessment of very sophisticated deep fakes any easier? And can the intelligence community help businesses and the public better identify sort of truth when it comes to this deep fake problem?
I'm really worried about it, right? And so deepfakes are something that our Trojan AI, right? So program was targeted at doing, and is making progress along those lines. And so you can find out more about the details of that program and who the performers are and what's going on from our website. But Trojan AI was actually going after that. Is you can take a small amount of information and really inappropriately skew where artificial intelligence will take it. And so we're trying to get smart about that. We will probably be starting a new program later in the year targeting this kind of investment, and where we can be smarter about how do we find those earlier, how do we find that out and do something so that it gets ignored, right? If it's there and it gets ignored, that's okay, right? But you also want to have the understanding of this from the human's ability to understand the data, right? And it's amazing. The human brain is so good, right? And we know often when things are askew, and computers aren't quite as good at that as we are, right? And so how do we get even better? So yes, big problem.
We've had a couple of questions around this, so let me bring this up as well. Many of the projects seem to overlap to some degree with those of DARPA, which is, of course, your defense sort of partner when it comes to research and development. To what extent does your team deconflict and communicate with DARPA program managers to make sure you're not kind of pursuing the same types of technologies?
All the time. We are closer with DARPA than we've ever been. Let's see, the deputy director is Peter Heinem. I was talking to him just earlier this week. That's the truth. And we have several they have taken several of our program managers and brought them in as other program managers over there. One of their office directors came from IARPA, deputy office directors, Dr. Kristen Jordan. So we have a very tight relationship, and we are regularly deconflicting with one another. And we are also often jointly putting out either requests for information or holding workshops. And we did that actually on the antennas. And as a result, different programs with different focuses may emerge from that, or it may be that, yes, this is much more squarely in the DARPA camp, this is much more squarely in the IARPA camp. And I have had programs pitched to me as recently as earlier, well, I guess it's already January, so last year, where it's a great idea. It's just not an IARPA idea, it's a DARPA idea. It's going after an Air Force problem, not an intelligence community problem. So we work very carefully, and we often, because we've got really smart guys and gals at both organizations, we often will serve as reviewers for one another's programs to make sure that we don't fund the same performer for the same work on two different programs. So we're really very conscious of that.
I've got a personal question that I'm going to get to here for you in just a moment, kind of about your career and what led you to where you are. But first, I want to ask a question here from Willie Vasquez, who says, what are some of the failures? You mentioned that IARPA is fine to fail. I mean, you can't really innovate without failure. What are some of the failures, he asked, that you've had and subsequent lessons that were learned from those failures?
Okay, so back, gosh, this is a while back, but I was here under a program. We were trying to develop capabilities to be able to show three-dimensional modeling capability, like they show in space programs. You tap the table, and the thing, the city emerges, and you can see it in 3D and walk around, and capabilities. And Dr. Carl Rennick, an earlier program manager, is the one who was doing that. And he was the program manager who said to us, you know, this is a really good idea. We'd love to be able to do it. And technology just isn't there. At the end of the first phase, we tried, we had made an investment, but it wasn't doing what we needed it to do and to have that capability that we'd really love to do. So that was a program that, you know, we really were at the edge, and it just didn't pan out, right? So another program where we, you know, have tried different things that failed is or was terminated because there was lack of interest was a program that we were doing called Hector on cryptanalytics, and it was a really interesting program, but there was no interest in the intelligence community. And so we had to say, yeah, no. Typically, though, what you're going to find is on a program, and let's say our Janus facial recognition capability program, that we were looking at 3 or 4 different approaches on what would work. And I'd be lying to you if I could tell you the details of what ended up working. I can't. But Dr. Lars Eriksson can, if somebody wants to know. But the reality is that different approaches along the way to give you that facial recognition failed. They couldn't give you the accuracy needed with the false detection rate needed for it to be viable and usable. So those are what we typically find is a program may not fail, okay? Approaches on that program may not make it, right? Even on our resilience program, okay, our brand new battery program that's up and running, we've got 8 different approaches that he's taking to be able to deliver advanced capabilities. And if all of those work, I will be shocked, right? So it's just not, but we've got to take the risk, right? To be able to do that and make the investment and really push the edge forward, because batteries and antennas size everything we do. So it just is, right?
Yeah. How much and how closely do you pay attention to sort of technologies being developed by U.S. adversaries when it comes to national security issues? And For example, you mentioned facial recognition technology. If China, for example, is coming up with a facial recognition technology that it's using that's making it more difficult for the intelligence community to deploy undercover operatives overseas, just as an example, would IARPA be involved in conversations about creating technologies to sort of get around adversarial technologies?
Yes, we pay a lot of attention to what's going on around the world because that's going to shape what we're doing, right? Partially, you know, because we allow anyone to propose an idea, we may get a proposal from someone overseas, and we will look at that and we'll make an evaluation and assessment of that. We're constantly doing what's known as market research, and so we're doing technical market research, and we're looking for the capabilities around the world. I expect my program managers to be doing that along with their office directors on a routine basis, because we need to know the state of the art. And that, otherwise we potentially could be investing in something that is already there, right? So that's part of the background in addressing the Heilmeyer Catechism, right? So the questions of what shape every program, how's it done today, what other capabilities are out there, and you have to have really good answers to that. And so that allows us to do that landscape evaluation of capabilities.
Mm-hmm. I've saved this question really till last because I kind of wanted to focus on what IARPA is doing and some of the areas that you're interested in developing in technology. But I feel like this is an important question, particularly given the fact that you're a director of IARPA and female. And I always like to help, you know, other women who are trying to advance their careers in that area. This question is from Terry Ann Hurley, and she says, since you hold BS and PhD degrees in organic and analytic chemistry from Brown University, what caused you to enter the field of information technology?
I'm not in the field of information technology. I'm battery geek. That's what it says. You know, why am I a scientist? Why am I a technologist? July 20th, 1969, we landed on the moon, right? You know, today is Buzz Aldrin's birthday, by the way. I heard that on NPR this morning. And, you know, but that was a miracle, you know, and it probably is the start of when I became a scientist, right? You ask all the questions that you could possibly ask, you know, how did they do that, right? You know, it was such a big event that made me the person I think I am today. I ask a lot of questions. Everybody will tell you that. I ask a lot of questions, right? But I want to figure things out, right? I want to make a difference with what we're doing. And so when you start to ask those questions, and I never would have thought that I was going to be in an expert in battery technology, and here I've been doing it for I probably shouldn't tell people how long I've been doing it, but you know, 35 years, right? So and I did not even study battery technology in grad school, right? Or undergrad. I was a kineticist, so rates of reaction, how do things go? But I know material science, but working for the Navy when I was much younger, I worked on the development of technology for torpedo systems, right? So 6.5 minutes in a heavyweight torpedo's life is a good day, right? So high energy systems, and I've been working in that field ever since, right? This is advanced materials, and there's so many challenges when you start looking at the systems aspect of things and how they all fit together and how you do that and how you deliver that advanced capability that can do something that you couldn't do before. That you can tell I really hate that. So.
Yeah, I was going to say your enthusiasm and your passion for the science and sort of solving some of these icy challenges is contagious. I mean, it's great. And how fantastic is it that it was that moment when man landed on the moon that really inspired you, and then you were able to go work on NASA programs. I think that's pretty cool too. All right, I'm going to slip one more question in here from McDaniel Wicker, who says, how is IARPA helping intelligence collection in the evolving digital domain, particularly in the realm of augmented or shared realities, gaming, and the emerging metaverse?
So, wow, that's a cool question. But we actually have a new program that's gonna hit the street later this spring. Okay, it's called REVA, right? So walk through rendering of images of varying altitudes. So I know that if you can think about this, you could think of it as walking through city streets and seeing exactly what it is that's going on around you at all the times, but doing it completely virtually, right? Well, you could imagine that there's technology that might be able to do that for London or for Rome, right? But what about for really remote areas where we don't have a lot of data and we don't have a lot of information? How do you gather that? Because that's intelligence, right? How do you gather that capability in? And so I see the gaming community having really a real potential for providing capabilities in that, and they would be really non-traditional performers on a program like that, right? And we have another program that will also come out this spring called Haystack, where that's going after large-scale, high-fidelity models of movements, right? That are based on human activities, and that's going to have huge AI machine learning component to it to be able to do that effectively. So we have 2 new programs, both in those areas that are imminent this spring.
That's fantastic. Well, let me close out our conversation today. At first, just tell you, like, I'm blown away. We talked about so many sort of exciting challenges and opportunities here, and I love the partnership aspect of what you do, because it just seems to make sense that that's how you get the best and brightest ideas. Any closing thoughts for us just on sort of what the rest of the year will hold for IARPA? You talked about a number of programs. You talked about how people can reach out via the website and connect if they have ideas. What closing thoughts for us today?
You know, I think technology that matters, right? Doing technology that matters is what we're about. And we really welcome you, particularly if you've never partnered with us before, we really welcome your interest in us, trying to find out more about us and where you can contribute to our programs. That to me is, you know, part of the opportunity, because getting those diversity of ideas and approaches, something that we don't know, so having those non-traditional partners is one of the elements that allows us to do things that many people don't feel that they have the opportunity to engage with the intelligence community if they're not the, you know, the big guys. And we offer you that opportunity. And there's going to be a lot of new programs starting this year and next year that give you the opportunity to engage with us and to really bring your great ideas to bear. So I think that that's how we welcome, because, you know, it's really hard to push the frontiers of science and to deliver capabilities that nobody else thinks you can do, right? Now, people, if anybody can give me the cloak of invisibility that Harry Potter has, I keep telling people that that's what I want, but I don't have it yet, right? And so I also don't have a program manager who's come to me with that idea. But really, those really challenging problems that are not going to be solved by industry or academia without our investment, that's what we're here to do, right? And so we're going to have things that may, to some, seem a little bit more boutiquey, but it's because we need capabilities that the big guys aren't going to do anyway, right? And so that's where we are here to really push the frontiers of science and do things that nobody thinks you can do.
Dr. Marsh, I really want to thank you. It's been an incredibly informative hour, just kind of understanding, you know, what some of the challenges are and how IARPA is helping to come up and really push those science frontiers that you talked about to come up with some solutions is just fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about IARPA, a little bit about how folks get involved with IARPA and the overall importance of the mission. It's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really been a lot of fun.
Agreed. All right, and thank you all for joining us as well. We had some fantastic questions. I think a lot of you really wanted some more details on what IARPA does and how to get involved, and so thanks for sending in all those questions as well. Quick note before we go, for our Subscriber Plus members out there, we're going to be holding a members-only briefing next Tuesday, January 25th with Mr. Norm Rule. A lot of you know him already. He's the former National Intelligence Manager for Iran. He's a Middle East specialist, and he's going to be talking about how the economy is driving security, future security in the Middle East. So that'll be interesting. I hope you join us for that. Details are always in our free newsletter every morning. Thanks so much for joining us. From Brad and I, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr. Marsh.
Thank you. Bye-bye.